This is Victor, and I have my car up on my lift. I'm getting ready to change the oil. I'm not going to videotape the entire process of changing the oil, but instead I will videotape sections before and after the oil change is complete, such as I'm doing now. This is going to be the videotape of before the oil change, and as you can see, I'm going to put Mobil 1 oil into it. I'm using a Mobil 1 oil filter. Now the reason I bought Mobil 1 oil filter is because it was on sale and got a discount on it. Oh, it was on sale if you were purchasing the oil as well, which I was going to purchase anyway. And this oil filter actually ended up being a little bit cheaper than the stock filter that was the GM filter that came with the car. Oops. And I want to go up this way. I gotta avoid my drip pans here. Oh shit! Excuse me there. I banged my head. And nope, that's the transmission. Wait a minute. Nope, that's the oil change plug. That's where I'll be draining the oil from, right there. And the filter is a little forward of that. There's the filter. That's going to be replaced. And that's where the oil is going to be drained from as well. A little over 4 quarts. Well, it takes 4 quarts of oil if the filter is empty. It takes a full 4 quarts. And I have a little more than 4 quarts available, so I know I have enough oil to fill the reservoir. Okay, the first step in changing the oil is to perform the obvious step. That is, change the oil. Or that is, drain the oil. And the oil is now draining out of the oil pan into my oil drain can that I have. And that's the first step. Next step will be to change the filter, or drain the oil out of the filter before I change it. Alright, now on this particular car, after I drain the fluid out of the oil pan, my next step is to drain the oil out of the filter. Because of the way the filter is mounted, I punch a couple of holes into the lowest part of the filter, because once you start to unscrew the filter, oil is always going to come out if I don't do this step. So in order to let the oil come out in a controlled fashion, to try to ensure that the oil flows where I want it to flow, which is in my drain pan, I punch the oil in the lowest part of the filter before I unscrew the filter, so that there is no oil to fall out of it once I start to unscrew it. And then my next step is going to be to replace the filter. Okay, this is the next step. Next step in the oil change. I have replaced the oil filter. Remember the old filter, I believe, was blue, and this is the new filter. This is the new Mobil 1 filter, the replacement. Because oil in an engine is like the blood to an engine, or like blood is to a person. What I do is I fill up the oil filter at least three quarters of the way with oil to minimize any gaps in lack of lubrication when the engine is first started. Imagine, if you will, if you had air bubbles in your blood. I mean, those air bubbles, they may not kill you, but they will do damage to you. And the oil to an engine is the equivalent to blood in a person. And to minimize any damage, any minute damage that may be done by having air bubble or lack of lubrication in the oil, I go ahead and add oil to the filter. And that's it for this particular step. The next step will show the what is the next step going to be? I'm trying to think of it now. Next step will show the engine after it's had oil added to it. And that's it. Alrighty now. Now we're on the last step, the one step that I had a hard time thinking of during the last video. Now we're to the point where the oil has all been drained and the oil filter has been changed out. And now we're ready to add oil to the engine, because after the oil is added, then the engine can be started and ran. The measuring stick, the dipstick, has already been removed, and we're going to fill oil up to the point of where, once we put the dipstick in, it's to the full mark. And some people have the saying of the more the better. Well, this is not true in the case of engine oil. If you have too much oil, the oil can start to foam and will not cool the engine correctly. And that's where the dipstick goes, right there, and that's where the oil will be filled. Have Mobil 1. I figured if Mobil 1 is good enough for the Corvettes, then it's good enough, because Mobil 1 is the standard engine that comes with a brand new Vette. I figured if it's good enough for a Vette, then it's good enough for a Pontiac 6-cylinder engine. And it's the recommended weight for this engine, 5W30. And there's 5.1 quarts in this container. At first I thought it was 1 gallon, but it's actually, if you read the container, it's 5.1 quarts. Okay, and this is the last video, because this is the last step of changing the engine oil in a car. Okay, I lied about the last video. But this is the very last video in the series of changing oil in my car. The engine is now running, the oil has been changed, and the electronics inside of the passenger compartment have been reset. One of the additional steps in this particular car is you need to reset the electronics that monitor the engine oil. And I've done so in accordance with the owner's manual. But the engine is running now, and has clean engine oil, clean filter. Everything is all clean inside. And this is the last video.